24 and how to get real intentional about your marriage as a whole. And this is all leading up to a free online event that we are hosting this coming Monday after all of the dust settles from your Thanksgiving family plans and all of that. So this coming Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are hosting the Intentional Marriage webinar. It's a free event that you and your spouse can join in together and receive some really good strategies to make your marriage more fruitful in 2024.
Hey, I love that we're preparing you guys before January 1st hits. I know this season is very busy for majority of us. We're doing Thanksgiving, but a lot of you guys are participating in, church groups or house groups, or you have family out of town, then you have Christmas and all those things. It can be very easy to kind of put everything else on the back burner. But we want to bring it to your attention, and it is going to be Monday night, so it's going to be during the time that you're hopefully settling down, maybe getting in bed with your spouse. So we want you to join us for this free webinar because we're gonna really help you guys to see ahead for 2024. I know it's hard to see it right now, but I think we are here to help you guys find what that is and how to put that importance on your marriage because it's worth it. And we see, how much weight you're able to carry together versus alone and separate and not feeling that connection between each other. So we're here to support you in this marriage journey, whatever season you may be going through.
That's the strategy of the enemy is to divide and conquer. It was exactly the strategy in the Garden of Eden
Mhm.
when when the serpent decided to get into the head of Eve and begin to talk with her, like, and begin to have her question who she was, what her identity was. And ultimately, she ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then she shared with her husband. But here's the unique kicker, it says she shared with her husband who was with her. And so there's so many couples that we see living under the same roof, sleeping in the same bed, but are not unified. And unless you are unified as a couple, you're never going to be able to fulfill that dominion mandate. And even if you have a measure of success alone, you'll never reach the potential that God has for you to reach, that multiplied power, if you don't connect with your spouse under a common vision and a mission that is greater than just having success on your career or having success financially, which all are great things. But what is the significant mark that you are going to leave on the world? And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. How do you prepare your marriage for 2024? I'm here to tell you things in this world are not going to get easier. As we continue to move in the end times and the unfolding of prophecy right before our very eyes, we have to shore up our marriages. We have to strengthen our marriages to withstand the opposition. And how do you strengthen your marriage? It's by laying a foundation of Christ, of having your marriage rooted on spiritual biblical principles that have withstood the test of time. And that will help you fortify your entire family against the kingdom of darkness. And not only that, as the kingdom of darkness comes pressing forward into your lives, it's going to produce a level of the anointing that you didn't even know was there, that you never thought possible. But if you're not prepared as a couple, what's happening in the world and what's going to continue to happen is going to break you. And that's what you don't want. And in order to prevent that from happening, you've got to get really intentional about your marriage. But what does it mean to have an intentional marriage? Well, that's what we want to talk to you a little bit about tonight as sort of a preview as to what we are going to be talking about on Monday, November the 27th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a free online event, but you need to sign up because it's not going to be here on Facebook or Instagram. It's going to be offline. Well, I say offline, online, but
In a separate
in a
room.
separate closed room,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to sign up to get into it. So go to marriage.ryancoleempowerment.com. That's marriage.ryancoleempowerment.com. The link is there, it's in the comments. Go and sign up. It's absolutely free. And not only that, you'll tap into a thread of marriage resources, much of which are free because we are a nonprofit ministry. And we are able to do what we do because of the support of faithful partners. If you want to give, you can give, but there's no pressure. We want to make sure these resources are available to you.
Yeah, when you look at the whole world and everything that's going on, it's hard to see yourself in a place of how can I make a difference? And this is why we put such a big importance on a marriage because our discipleship making process starts at our in our home. It affects our children, the way we have a relationship with one another, and then having that maleness and femaleness expressed in our homes really shores up our children and hopefully you're discipling your children to be contributing members of society. But in order for you to do that, your marriage has to be strong and you have to continue to work at it. And it's not something that you achieve and now it's perfection. Every season, every marker, every change, you have to approach your marriage in a new way. And once you feel that disconnect, you have to pursue that consistency and continue to pursue your spouse in whatever season that you are approaching. So, no matter if you're just got married, you've been married 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter. You still should invest in your marriage. You have to be intentional and consistent. Just kind of like you exercise, a lot of times people want to exercise for a week and they want to see the results, but it's really the consistency. If you wake up every single day and make a decision to eat good, but also, exercise your body. Eventually, a month down the line or 2 months down the line, you'll see how much stronger, you get. I've learned that about myself recently, just being more consistent every single day. I now realize certain exercises no longer are challenging, and I have to start doing something different in order to challenge my muscles, in order to challenge my body, but I do feel stronger and I feel great, so I want to continue, and it does put you on this kind of a high, that it's a kind of a buildup. It's not just a starting point. You continue to build on it. And that's where the intentionality comes in and you start feeling that intimacy, really truly knowing that person, who they are and their heart.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier this week, and we both sort of had this aha moment about what it means to have an intentional marriage because so oftentimes we romanticize what it means to be, intentional in our relationship. And we put kind of these works based or performance based parameters on our marriage to say, okay, that means that we're being intentional, that we schedule a date night and my husband, plans this extravagant date and he woos me, right? Or we try to recapture what we had when we first started dating or when were engaged and first got married. And so we put these performance-based parameters around our relationship, and we are basically in the same way that you described, like the person who goes to try to find the best outfit for working out at the gym. Like they've got the nicest tennis shoes, right?
Mhm.
God forbid they get dirty. They've got, the best outfit. They've got their camera ready. They've positioned it, right? They've taken their gym selfie. They found the perfect playlist or the perfect podcast to listen to. And, an hour and a half into their workout, they've actually not even broken a sweat, and they haven't even, like, done maybe 5 or 10 minutes worth of workout because they're in between posting on social media, or they've wasted so much time, trying to make this moment so perfect or like they've seen on social media with other people that they aren't actually doing the work. And the truth of the matter is being intentional about your health and being intentional about your marriage is very similar, right? It's about showing up every single day. And it's about learning how to connect with your spouse, even in the seemingly boring and mundane moments of your relationship. And it's about saying, even if we go to the same restaurant every month for a date and we connect, if we don't do anything else, but we hold each other's hands, we look in each other's eyes, we dream together, right? Even if it's as boring as it could possibly be, maybe we even go out in our sweats and just sit on one of those swings at the park, right? If it's boring, but it's consistent and it's mature, that's an intentional marriage. More so than one or both of you trying to perform to earn back your spouse's love and affection. What kind of marriage is that?
And I think that it doesn't have to be fancy, like we've said it before, that, you know, when you really truly get to know a person and who they are, I think just the simple things, you start learning that the simplest things in life you start to appreciate, especially once you do see grief and you're confronted with things that people are dealing with on daily basis, and you can look up to God and say, God, I'm so grateful that I'm not dealing with this and our marriage is not coming through this. And God starts using your marriage to be a testimony to other people, and you start seeing the challenges that other people face. And that's not to say that you should compare your marriage to somebody else's challenges, but I think it also kind of reels you back in instead of always looking at Instagram or what somebody's posting, their highlight reel, and you're comparing your marriage to them. Like, start looking at your marriage. What can you do? What can you improve on so that you feel fulfilled? You feel like you're leaving a significant mark, but you're also maybe doing something new and adventurous with your spouse.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement. We're all here. As long as we're breathing, we have a chance to grow and learn, and so we have to take that opportunity to reflect on our own self and self-improve, and then also face to our spouse and, ask them how can, you be a support to them and how can they be a support to you? And dream together. That's what it's all about, and just enjoying the whole journey and the whole process. I love that one of the statements that you made when we were talking about this whole thing was, your Friday date is only as good as your ability to stay connected Monday through, Friday. And it's so true because a lot of times people, like, put the date on the calendar, but they are so not intentional every single day that it just feels like a check mark that you're just,
And they cast off all of sort of the work of the marriage to like, oh, we're going to get to that when we get to our date night at the end of this
but
month
you
or at
really
the
are
end of
not
this
going to
week.
do that, and you know that because 'cause you're probably
No.
gonna be exhausted, and it's gonna be just good to get out and not have to think about anything stressful, but it's just those little things throughout the day and throughout the week that you do that builds up to that, climax of having an awesome and amazing date and
What
enjoying somebody's presence.
what good is a date night if like you're irritated with one another by the time you get there? Or if you're missing the mark because you're trying to perform for their approval. I think that was what the Lord was really speaking to us this week is about this orphans mentality, this performance mentality that we carry into our marriage because we aren't sure in our own self, in our relationship with God, in who we are, in our identity. And so we then cast that onto our spouse. We make them perform for us, they make us perform for them. And I think about how we overcomplicate things and we try to, like we've said before, recapture the glory of what was and miss out on the glory of what is and what could be. So many times when couples come into our office, they are trying to get back to the place that they were when they first started dating. Well, the fact is, they're different people. They've lived through different experiences, whether that be grief, joy, pain, loss, all of the above. They are mature, their preferences are different. And instead of trying to go back and recapture the old glory, you have to face forward and say, who are we today? And how can I seek to understand the person that my spouse is through everything that we've gone through the fact that we've had multiple kids and we've, went through career changes and school changes and all of the stuff that life brings. You can't recapture. In fact, we've said recently in our podcast that it's impossible for you to go back and recapture the old. But yet here we put ourselves on the hamster wheel in our marriage, performing for our spouse's approval. I began to think this week about my grandparents who at the time that my grandmother passed away, which I think she passed away 2018. They had been married 67, 68 years at that point, and I was so inspired by their marriage, and it was built on the foundation of faith and the love that they both had for Jesus Christ, and they were in ministry together, but they lived a very simple life, to be honest. And it's not that they didn't have money. It's at one point, they had a good bit of money, and even now my grandpa is good, financially, but he is still living in the house that he was born in. And
Mm.
of course, he built onto it, he expanded upon it. My grandparents were married at 14 and 15 years old. And I think back and I say to myself, how many times did my granny and pa go out on what we would call a good date?
Yeah.
A fancy steak restaurant or, this wooed. I mean, to be honest, we had to at times, especially in his older years, we had to remind my papa that it was Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
Yeah, but he would always go get, and it was the same thing every single year, this little box of chocolates. I mean, one of those, probably at this point, a dollar store, $5 or $10 box of chocolates. And my granny looked forward to getting that. But uh, they weren't performing for one another's love. They already loved one another unconditionally at that point after 60 something years, after living through the trauma of life and all that it brings with it, and the joys and serving the Lord together. But their love was built on something more refreshing. It was a consistent, everyday kind of love to the point where, like, you almost it was indistinguishable. When you talked about my granny, you said granny and pa. When you said, "Do you wanna go?" "We're going to granny and pa's." Like, it was this one uniform conversation, like, sentence. When you were talking about them, you talked about them as one unit, as one person, and I wrote about them in our first marriage book, I Love You More, Most, and Forever, and how they literally met. They were pen pals, and then it was like overnight they decided to get married. My papa literally showed up. He drove from South Carolina to Florida, showed up at her dad's church, asked her to marry him, and within a couple days they were married. 14, 15. He drove her back. He didn't even have a license at that time. They didn't even need a license. My grandpa just turned 90. So that's how different times were. And they started their life at that young age, but they built a strong and healthy marriage, not on the performance or the perception of what romance was, but on the consistent everyday serving one another while they served God. And so, if you're going to build an intentional marriage this year, I want you to throw the blueprint that the world has given you out the window. And I want you to take on a new mindset that this love between you and your spouse in 2024 is going to be unconditional. And in
Mhm.
this webinar, we are going to talk to you about how you can build this three layers of your marriage. Build the foundation of spiritual growth, of a common mission. Build a marriage where you have trust and vulnerability to be able to dream together, and then being intentional with physical intimacy. And really, that goes back to our first book, I Love You More, Most, and Forever, the outer court, the inner court, and the Holy of Holies. That's the tabernacle of Moses as a blueprint for a healthy marriage. And so we're going to help you by giving you some really clear strategies, but those strategies are not going to be based in performance. They're going to be based in unconditional love, and we're going to challenge some of the status quo thinking that you have adopted from the world and help you strengthen your marriage for the fight in 2024. When we stepped into this new year, which we're already in because of the Jewish New Year that began in September, this is the year to war over the open door. God wants you to walk through something in 2024 that will be legacy building, that will impact future generations. whether that be breakthrough in your business or ministry or both, because really in the kingdom, there is no difference between that which is secular and sacred as it relates to your calling. But God wants you to run through the open door, but there are going to be many adversaries. And those adversaries are there for a reason, and God allows them there to test you. How bad do you really want what's on the other side of that door? Do you really have the hunger, the ache in your soul to do what God has called you to do? And furthermore, is your marriage going to stand the weight of the pressure that comes on the other side of the door? Not from the fight of all of the powers of darkness that are standing as gatekeepers trying to prevent you from that dream. That's not what's really going to kill your marriage. What's going to kill your marriage is the potential success without the character to sustain you. So getting through the door, coming through the warfare, and having a marriage so fractured that you can't even enjoy the success and the glory that's coming in 2024, you don't want to have all of your dreams come true and turn to your spouse and hate them. You want to stand arm in arm and be able to bask together in the glory of your dreams coming true and God's purpose being fulfilled through you.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was reminded of what our mentor was talking about in regards to how he has seen over so many years of his life, which he's in his 70s now, how many couples connect on the physical level. There's some that connect on the physical and then the soulish level. And then there's only a few people that he's seen, or a few couples that he's seen that connected on all three, which is the physical, the soulish, and the spiritual level. And I believe that your grandparents were definitely part of that couple that really connected on all three levels. And so oftentimes people ask, like, what is there? How is there more to this marriage? Besides living together, sharing the bills, sharing the load of raising the kids, and all this mundane stuff. But your marriage was made for more, and we're going to help you to discover that more. Not only connect more physically, but connect on the soulish level, but also spiritually. Maybe those are the areas that you're lacking in, and we want to equip you and empower you to walk this out. So you be sure to go and register. The link will be in our description for this free webinar that we're hosting this coming Monday. It's going to be in the evening when you're winding down. Hopefully your kids will be in bed by that time, but if not, you can still turn it on and listen and tune in with your spouse. I know it's going to be amazing and life-changing, and it's absolutely free.
Yes, absolutely. You want to make sure that you are there. If you've attended a live event with us before, for instance, last November we had the Intentional Marriage one night event, and many people showed up. It's going to be different than it was last year. We have fresh revelation to share with you, new strategies, and we're going to keep building together throughout 2024 so that by the end of next year, you look back and say, my marriage is stronger than it's ever been. We want you to journey with us, and that begins this Monday, November 27th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Intentional Marriage webinar. So you got to go right now to marriage.ryancoleempowerment.com and sign up. We will meet you there. We'll send you the link to join us in the private room, and we will pray for you. We will answer your questions. There is no question that is off the table. You get exclusive time with Victoria and I. We've counseled countless couples, and we're ready to empower you and your marriage as well. So don't miss it. Sign up right now at marriage.ryancoleempowerment.com.
Thank you guys for joining us for today's live, and we will see you guys this coming Monday. Be sure to register.